Hello everyone. So this video could actually have been part of my lightning spear series, but I have done it a long time ago and we have concluded the 5 video series. In this video we are going to be talking about Tangletongue, because it's a bit nebulous, right? It's a little bit vague, as is GGG's traditional style. So what does it do, right? So I actually have explained this in the lightning spear build guide video, but I think a more succinct and fully dedicated video could be of use to some of you guys, instead of trying to pinpoint the exact location, exact timestamp. I was talking about that in the other video. So guys, let's get into it. So guys, Tangletongue, you just take a look. Some physical damage, crit chance, right? Nice. Crit intelligence, skills convert into mana cost, and force criticalist. So the force criticalist is a little bit nebulous. So when I first saw this item, you see some people playing lightning spear build, guys. They throw it, it forks into a million spears and kills everything on screen. So that I thought that Tangletongue was doing that, right? Because it says forks critical hits, so they crit, right? That's what I thought. They crit, and it's being forked into a million hits, and that's nothing that Tangletongue does, right? So the wording is a little bit awful here. That's why I'm doing this video, guys, so that I can explain to you what Tangletongue actually does. So guys, sadly we have a lot of stuff that have similar meanings in the game regarding projectiles, right? So there is a fork as a support. There is actually a fork as an in-game concept. There is Pierce. There is a support gem called Pierce. I'm not very sure if there is actually a support gem called Pierce, but it's just too mixed up, right? And they do too similar stuff, and it does get confusing. And so if you are aware of this fork, then that's what you would think about that Tangletongue, right? That's what happened to me, right? I know what fork is, right? And I thought that's what Tangletongue does. It doesn't do that. Let's just get into it. So first of all, let's get into this fork so we can know what the in-game fork does. So guys, fork is a support gem that allows the supported projectiles to fork. Obviously, right? So let's see what fork does. Projectiles that fork split into two the first time they hit an enemy, and they do not pierce it. So guys, there is pierce. Pierce means your projectile has hit an enemy, right? But it doesn't stop there. It just pierces through the target while doing its full damage to it, right? That's what pierce is. Fork means it hits the target, it doesn't continue its trajectory, but it gets split into two and gets emitted in random directions, right? That's what fork is. And that's that's entirely different than what Tangletongue does. So what Tangletongue does is, guys, you might have seen the forking diagrams in your classes or whatever it is. There is one event that's happening, then coin flip, for example, heads, tails, right? Then heads and tails again, and then heads and tails, right? It just split like a tree, right? So that's what Tangletongue does to critical hits, right? And you can see that in, for example, when you are using Tangletongue and you go into the details of a certain skill, the thing that you'll get is, okay, so I have 100% crit chance that would throw this off, right? I wouldn't be able to explain on the level that I like to. Let's just unspec a crit node. Okay, I should not have 100% crit node chance now, right? Okay, now it's lower. So guys, when you are using Tangletongue, right, this critical hits menu will be present, right? What that means is, what Tangletongue does is, so we have the main hand critical hit chance, right? That's standard, right? Then we have main hand effective chance for critical hit. Then main hand effective chance for double critical hit, twice critical hit, and finally we have the critical. So these three, right? So what do these three mean? The main hand crit chance is the regular crit chance, right? That has nothing to do with Tangletongue, right? That will just be present normally, right? So what Tangletongue brings is these two lines. So what that means is, guys, so what basically Tangletongue does is it creates a tree, a forking tree, just like I described with the heads and tails scenario. So for example, you hit, you crit, or you do not crit, then there is another role. Then for twice critting, there is another role for critting once and not critting then, right? Then there is a role for critting, not critting the first time around, but critting the second time, and finally twice not critting, right? That's the tree, right? Because so that's what Tangletongue does to a hit, right? It opens a tree of 4 possibilities: double crit, crit and non-crit, non-crit and crit, and finally double non-crit, right? So the first thing that you see is without Tangletongue, right? That's 94.45% crit chance is what I have without Tangletongue coming in. So what you see here, main and effective chance for critical it is, it takes into account all of the outcomes that have at least one crit in it. So this is the chance of having a double crit, or a crit and no crit, or a no crit and crit, right? Those numbers add up to 99.69%. So, I will be almost always critting, right? What's a twice critical? Twice critical it is, that means you have rolled a crit and then you have rolled another crit. And what Tangletongue allows you to do is, if you are actually twice critting, I like to term it as double critting. If you are double critting, it will allow you to use your critical damage bonus on that twice, right? So my critical damage bonus is 566%, as you can see here. My critical damage bonus will be 1,132% for twice critting, right? That's why you want to get 100% crit chance, so you can always double crit. Let me reassign that point, right? Take a look at this now, and I will have a 100% chance of double critting at all times, right? So I will always double crit. So my critical damage, and that's why people use crit damage all around in the lightning spear build, because you are actually double dipping, right? I mean, you might have heard people saying double dipping, but they don't explain what that double dipping means. It means you are getting double crit damage bonus. So for example, the 12% crit damage bonus soul core I have in my weapon actually gives me 24%. Why? Because I'm always double critting, and that means I get double value out of this node, right? And that's why we can tolerate the awfully low damage range on the Tangletongue, right? So the Tangletongue's damage is low. We get some flat damage from our rings and gloves to mitigate that a little, but that doesn't fully mitigate it because its damage is very low, right? Spears can have like 1,000 DPS, right? And Tangletongue is like 100 DPS, right? Leaves you very much behind. Just the rings and the glove cannot make that up, but the double crit makes it up, right? That's why a rare spear that is outperforming Tangletongue has to be very, very good, right? Because I have 560 crit damage, and that gets multiplied by 2. That's what I'm gonna be doing. So guys, let me go over this again with a different point of view. So guys, what happens is I'm about to do a hit, right? And my crit chance is being rolled. Let's say I don't have a 100% crit chance, because 100% crit chance is very simple. I will always be double critting, right? So let's say I have a 90% crit chance. What happens is, guys, the game rolls my crit chance, right? And let's say it rolls a 100-sided dice, right? If I roll 1 to 90, I'm going to be critting. And if I roll anything between 91 to 100, then I won't be critting. So what Tangletongue always does is, guys, it rolls a second crit roll immediately, right? Irrelevant of the outcome of the first roll. So I rolled once and I rolled again, and then the tree that we mentioned that has 4 possible outcomes will be present, right? There will be double crit, there will be single crit, and there will be crit and no crit, and there will be no crit and crit. They are separate outcomes, right? Because let's say, guys, the first roll is 80 and the second roll is 75, right? They are both below 90. That means I will be double critting, right? Then the first roll is 85 and the second roll is 92. That means I will be critting the first time and not critting the second time around, right? And for the third situation, let's reverse that. 85 at first and 92 second, which means I will be not critting first, then critting, right? and let's say then I roll 93 and 95, then I will be not critting at all, right? So let's go over the situations here. So the first time we did get double crit, that means we are going to twice critical it, and that means we are going to utilize our critical damage bonus twice, right? Moving on. The first roll is a crit, and the second roll is not a crit, so Tangletongue, and that's actually not really different than a regular crit, right? Because the first roll is a crit and the second roll is not a crit. And imagine if the second roll didn't exist, the outcome would be the same. So that's a regular crit, right? But this is where Tangletongue comes in. The first roll is not a crit, and the second roll is a crit, and Tangletongue will allow me to actually crit, right? That is a critical that wouldn't be happening otherwise, right? And finally, we have the double non-crit. That is a regular non-critical hit. So Tangletongue doesn't help me there. So where Tangletongue helps me is the double critting, or the first roll failing to crit and the second roll critting, right? That's where Tangletongue helps me. Because if I double crit, I doubly utilize my crit damage bonus, and if I miss the crit roll the first time around and hit it the second time, then that means I'm going to score a critical hit, whereas I shouldn't be scoring a critical hit. Yeah. So that's basically what Tangletongue does. This is a little bit complicated and extremely nebulous on the item, guys. That's why I'm doing this video. So that's what forks critical hit means, right? It does roll the crit roll twice always, right? And as I said, it creates a tree of 4 different possibilities, and then gives you the outcome. So guys, let's finalize the example of my 90% crit chance. So guys, what happens, what is the chances of me rolling below 90 twice, right? It's 81%. Why? Because I have to roll between 1 and 90, and, right, that's the operative word, and, not or, right? And then I have to roll 1 to 90 again, right? So these are 90% chances, and we want it to happen twice. So 90% times 90%, that is 81%. So guys, if I had a 90% crit chance with a Tangletongue, my chance of double critting, or as the game terms it, twice critting, would be 81%. Now moving on. What is my chance of critting first and then failing to crit? That is 9%. Why? Because critting is 90%, right? And not critting is 10%. You multiply those, 90% times 10%, or 10% of 90%, that is 9%, right? And what is the chance of not critting and critting, right? Not critting at first and then critting. It's exactly the same thing, because this time around it's not 90% times 10%, but this time around it's 10% times 90%. And because, multiplication is commutative, the result is going to be the same. What is 90% of 10%? That is 9%. So another 9% there. And these outcomes are virtually the same. So they are not literally the same, but the outcomes are the same, right? I am going to be single critting. 9% plus 9%, 18% of the time. And finally, we have the chance of twice not critting, right? Not critting in both tries. So that's 10% times 10%. What is 10% of 10%? It's 1%. So 1%. So guys, the final tree would be like this. 81% of the time twice critting, right? 18% of the time regular critting, and 1% of the time not critting at all. That's the final result. So if I was able to get my crit chance to 90%, the Tangletongue tree would show me the exact same thing. So guys, why has one of the lines disappeared here, right? Because Tangletongue used to have 2 additional lines, but there is now only 1 additional line. Why? Because I'm at 100% crit, guys. That means I will be always double critting, right? There is no point in examining the single crit scenario or no crit scenario, because they don't exist anymore. I have a 100% crit chance, which means both rolls will succeed all the time, which means I will be double critting at all times. That's why we don't have it. So if I unspec that point again, the line will come back again, right? The additional line. You guys owe me 20,000 gold. Where is it? Yeah, see? So now the additional line is back. So my crit chance is not 100%, and therefore it is important for the game to display to me what is my chance of normal critical hitting and double critical hitting. So my double critical hitting is almost 100%, and my double critting is down to like 90%. So yeah, that's about it. I hope that was explanatory, guys. So Tangletongue is the most popular item of season 1, as I term it, or Dawn of the Hunt, if you don't want to bring numbers in it. So I thought I'd explain this, and that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll see you in the next.